Hey guys, Joe Boy here. So, I got a discussion topic for you today, and this is something that I don't think a lot of people get. And so, this is really going deep into the analyzation of really what makes the Yonko, and specifically when looking at the Yonko and those who maybe are near Yonko level, why exactly they are what they are, and what are their strengths and weaknesses, and how they would sort of match up if they were ever to fight. And so before I really get into this, I just want to explain that this is mostly my own speculation from my understanding of One Piece. Some of this I may not be able to defend to the point that it's absolute fact, but this is just the way that I view what makes a Yonko. And to take my word for what it is, which is not a fact, but really my opinion. So firstly, I think that all the Yonko are, generally speaking, fairly even. So when you look at, let's say, Whitebeard before he died, and then Kaido, Big Mom, Shanks, and Blackbeard, in terms of their own individual strengths as Yonko, their personal power level, I think they're fairly comparable. But at the same time, I believe that there are some that are stronger than others. But it could be stronger in the terms of, if you look at the fight versus Akainu and Aokiji, how that fight lasted 10 days, but eventually we got a winner. So I think if the Yonko decided to fight, there is Yonko that are stronger than the other Yonko. But at the same time, the gap isn't as huge as maybe I might imply when I say this. So keep this in mind that I think that there's some that are stronger than others, but when I say stronger, I mean slightly stronger, not overwhelmingly stronger. So let's first look at Kaido and why Kaido is a Yonko and how his crew sort of compares to the other Yonko. So first of all, we know that Kaido is the strongest creature alive, and it is also said if it's a 1 versus 1 fight, you should bet on Kaido. So actually, out of all the Yonko, I believe currently Kaido is the strongest character in One Piece of all the pirates. I'm not going to compare him to any Marines, just among the pirates. I think in a 1v1 fight, as the manga tells us, that we should bet on Kaido. So when looking at Kaido as a Yonko, I think he would be the strongest one. However, at the same time, I think that it's more than just the Yonko's individual strength that determines the strength of the Yonko crew and the Yonko as a whole, which is that a Yonko also has crew members. And so Kaido is just one individual, the leader of his crew. And so while Kaido might be the strongest individual character among the pirates right now, that maybe if you include the strength of his crew as well, that's where some of the other Yonko might gain on him in terms of rivaling Kaido. And so this is why I think that we're currently in the Age of Smile, which is that Kaido is using Caesar were using Caesar and Doflamingo to increase the strength of not Kaido individually, although there's some speculation that Kaido is eating Smile Fruit. I'm not going to get into that, but he's definitely using Smile to increase the strength of his crew. And I think I've done a theory on this where I'm discussing how Kaido might be looking to start the war amongst the Yonko, the verse Yonko sort of saga here, because he's now sort of eclipsed all the other Yonko in terms of strength, not only by himself as being the character that we should count on in a 1v1 fight, but also now I think his crew is better suited now to rival the other established Yonko, which would be Shanks and Big Mom, which is that before, I think the reason why Kaido isn't already yet the Pirate King is because while Kaido individually might have been the strongest character, along with Whitebeard before Whitebeard got sick or before he died, but that his crew wasn't yet capable of going against equally maybe some of the other Yonko like Shanks and Big Mom. And so now that he's using Smile to increase the strength of his crew, Kaido might legitimately be not only the strongest pirate on the seas right now, but his crew and him as a whole might be the strongest individual fighting force within the pirate world as a whole. And this could lead up to this potential battle that we have going on with Kaido wanting to take out the other Yonko. And so this train of thought really gives credence to sort of the actions that's going on with Blackbeard and with Luffy right now, which is that Luffy is increasing in strength, Blackbeard as well. Blackbeard used Whitebeard to improve his own individual strength, but that's not the only thing someone would need in order to become the Pirate King and set themselves apart as the strongest pirate on the sea. They also need a strong crew and strong allies. What you see now, what's going on with Luffy is that with each island that he comes across, he's gaining additional allies. And this is important if Luffy is ever to become the Pirate King, because it's not just about Luffy being the strongest character in order to become the Pirate King. It also matters about his crew, the Straw Hat crew, and the strength of his allies, because his crew and his allies will play very important roles in taking down the other Yonko. And we can also see with Blackbeard as well. Blackbeard got the strongest characters basically from Impel Down, the level 6 of Impel Down, to join his crew, and he set level 6 on each other to sort of determine who was the strongest to add to his crew, because Blackbeard also understands that it's not just his own personal strength that's going to get him to the top, that he would also need a strong crew as well, and that would totally explain why it is that he's doing this. And so I think now is a good time to talk about Shanks. What makes Shanks a Yonko? How strong is Shanks? How does his crew sort of match up with the other Yonko out there? This is my own personal speculation. This is what I believe, but make sure you tell me what you think. But this is what I think, which is that I don't think Shanks is the strongest character. I think that in a 1v1 fight, Shanks versus Kaido, Shanks would lose. However, I think that Shanks right now has the strongest main crew out of any of the other Yonko, which is that I think that Shanks has some allies in the New World. In order to be a Yonko, you have to have territory, and by having territory, it implies that you have allies. But I don't think that the allies is what makes Shanks a Yonko and sort of makes him a rival of the other Yonko. I think that Shanks' main crew, look at all the characters within Shanks' crew, that together as a whole on their main ship, Shanks has the strongest crew. And we can even see that when his crew arrives, just his main crew, to the battle at Marineford, everyone sort of stopped and was like, oh, shit is about to go down. And so this is just my personal speculation, but I believe that is why Shanks is really a rival to the other Yonko. It isn't his allies, and it isn't necessarily his own personal strength, although Shanks is one of the 4 strongest pirates on the sea, but that his main crew is the strongest. And I think this parallels well with Goldie Roger. Why was Goldie Roger the Pirate King? I don't think it was because of Goldie Roger's allies. In fact, I don't think that Roger made a huge point about starting battles with a bunch of allied pirates. I think that Goldie Roger and Whitebeard were roughly equivalent in strength before the Great Pirate Era started. However, what put Goldie Roger ahead of everybody else was that his main crew was by far, including him as well, the strongest fighting force among the pirates. And I think this thought is most substantiated when looking at Silver's Rayleigh, who is the second in command of the Roger Pirates. Rayleigh, even in his old age, way past his prime, was still able to fight mostly on even terms with one of the admirals, Kizaru, during the Sabati Archipelago arc. And so what I think that thought and that battle validates the fact that during his prime, I believe that Rayleigh might have been almost really Yonko level by himself. And so if you were back in the day when someone was planning on taking down Goldie Roger, then you have to keep in mind that when you're attacking Goldie Roger, you're also attacking his crew. And so in essence, really, you have 2 Yonko level characters, or, Goldie Roger was obviously the Pirate King, so he was the strongest of the pirates along with Whitebeard. But then you have Rayleigh, who's almost near their tier as well, that you also have to battle against if you plan on taking down Roger. And so going into the future of One Piece and where the Straw Hat Pirates are going, I think you would find something similar is going to happen with the Straw Hat Pirates, which is that Luffy will eventually be the strongest pirate on the sea, or at least considered to be on equal terms with another person that's just as strong, whether that's Kaido or Blackbeard in the future. But again, where I think Luffy will eventually separate himself from everyone else is the strength of his main crew, and specifically Zoro. I think that in the future of One Piece, Zoro might come to be recognized as someone who individually was capable of being a Yonko by himself if he were to start his own pirate crew. And so this could be a very good parallel between the Roger Pirates and how he ended up becoming the Pirate King and the Straw Hat Pirates. And so this is even commented on by Bonnie during the Sabati Archipelago arc, or the Supernova arc, where she discusses Zoro and sort of how he's seen throughout the world as someone who could potentially rival his own captain within that crew. But I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, what about Big Mom? I think right now people are in general thinking that Big Mom is probably the weakest of the Yonko. And I think that I probably would agree with that sentiment. I think that probably, although there's really no confirmation yet because we haven't seen Big Mom fight, that Big Mom probably seems definitely isn't on the tier that Kaido is in a 1v1 fight. And I think that she would also be below Shanks, or at least on the same level as Shanks. And then when you look at her main crew, I think her main crew is definitely weaker than Shanks, and more on the level of Kaido back before Kaido started giving all of his crew Smile Devil Fruits. So why is Big Mom still a Yonko? Well, I think that there's a lot of things that come into play here, but I think Big Mom is now the most established Yonko right now within the New World, which is, I think that Big Mom probably has the most territory and the most influence within the New World. So honestly, I think that Big Mom just has the most amount of pirates, the most amount of people working under her. And this makes a lot more sense when looking at the fact that she's had 85 children and 43 husbands, 129 family members for Big Mom, which I think sort of speaks to the idea that Big Mom isn't necessarily stronger in one individual, in one specific area, but more than anything, she can beat you with mass numbers. And also, we can see from the interaction between Sanji, Vito, and Capone that Big Mom's intelligence and her network of information is probably the highest within the Yonko, which is that if there's something going on within the Grand Line, or maybe within the world as a whole, Big Mom knows about it. And the more information you have definitely increases your overall strength. Especially when looking at, you can know the specific strength and weaknesses of all your enemies before you even meet them, because you have all this knowledge. So the next person I want to talk about here is Whitebeard. But more of Whitebeard in the past, because we saw in the future he got old, he got sick, so it's sort of hard to see maybe how strong he actually was when we saw him fight. But going back to Goldie Roger's time, right after Goldie Roger was captured, we also saw that Shiki was captured shortly after Goldie Roger as well through Chapter 0. And so what I think, so it's commented on by Doflamingo that he thinks, and I agree with this as well, Whitebeard had the potential to claim the throne of Pirate King, but he chose not to. And Whitebeard comments a little bit on this, saying basically he wasn't really interested in that sort of thing. He just wanted to make a family. And so what made Whitebeard, after Roger died, the Pirate King? Although he didn't claim the title, why was it possible for him to take this mantle? And I think it's because of several reasons. First of all, Whitebeard was then the strongest individual pirate within the seas, which is that I believe at this time in a 1v1 fight you would definitely count on Whitebeard. He was the strongest man alive. But on top of that, he was also an established Yonko like Big Mom is now, and I think that he probably also had the mass numbers as well to compete with pretty much anyone. And then again, looking at his main crew, I think at that particular time his main crew can compete with anyone. And so what put Whitebeard over everyone was because Whitebeard was in fact the strongest person alive. His crew can compete with anyone else's crew. He had more numbers, or the same amount of numbers as anyone else within the pirate world, if Big Mom was also a Yonko at this time with similar amounts of numbers. But Whitebeard himself was the strongest. So Whitebeard could have claimed the throne of Pirate King if he so desired it, but he chose not to. And so now let's talk about Blackbeard. I think a lot of people see that Blackbeard will eventually be the main rival of Luffy before Luffy defeats him and then inevitably becomes the Pirate King. So before Luffy becomes the Pirate King, before he finds the One Piece, I think that his crew and Blackbeard's crew are going to go at it, and obviously Luffy will win. But at this particular time, it doesn't seem like Blackbeard is the strongest. It definitely would seem like Kaido right now is the top Yonko. His crew and him as a whole would be the best. And so once Luffy ends up defeating Kaido, it would seem like, well, then Luffy would be able to take down anyone. But this is why currently Blackbeard is increasing his strength. we see that Blackbeard and his crew are right now hunting for the strongest devil fruit. They're stealing devil fruit from people and using it to increase their power. So while Blackbeard may not currently be on the same tier as Kaido, I think that definitely once it's come to revealed how many strong devil fruits and what these devil fruits are that he's been able to obtain, that Blackbeard will have eclipsed Kaido's strength sometime in the future of One Piece. Keep in mind that Kaido's increasing the strength of his crew through the use of an artificial flawed devil fruit and smile, whereas Blackbeard is actually getting the legit thing, the real devil fruits. And not only that, he's being selective about which ones that he's taking, more likely than not. And so I think using this, we will see that even by the time that, if Blackbeard isn't on Kaido's level now, by the time that Luffy and Blackbeard face off, Blackbeard will have eclipsed Kaido's strength, and Luffy and Blackbeard will then be the two Yonko. I think Luffy will be a Yonko by that point, that bro down for this final battle to determine who will be the Pirate King. Also keep in mind that Blackbeard's Jolly Roger has 3 skulls, and people use this to sort of speculate the idea that Blackbeard will at some point be able to obtain not only 2 devil fruits, which is thought to be impossible, but 3. And so once Blackbeard gets that third devil fruit, I think at that point in time, Blackbeard will then be considered the strongest individual fighting force among all the pirates. And I think this will happen after Kaido gets defeated. And so at that point, Blackbeard will be a scary entity within the One Piece world, truly capable of taking the throne of Pirate King, even over someone else who might have defeated another Yonko in Luffy. As well as there's some speculation as to which devil fruit he might take, and my personal preference right now is that at some point in time he might take Marco's fruit, the Phoenix fruit, which, if you just think about just the potential of Blackbeard obtaining Marco's fruit, the perfection of that power within the powers that he already has is just mind-blowing. Which is that he already has a devil fruit that can negate the powers of other devil fruit, as well as that can draw people to him through his use of Black Hole. We can also see that he has the strongest Paramecia type devil fruit as well, which is said to be capable of destroying the world in Whitebeard's Gura Gura no Mi. Keep in mind that his Logia type is the darkness fruit. So we have a Logia, we have the strongest Paramecia, and then going into a possible zone, given Oda's tendencies to make things in groups of 3, then he would also have the ability to heal from pretty much any damage that's inflicted on him. So he can heal, he can cause a mass amount of destruction, and he can cancel other devil fruits, which would definitely be one of the most epic individual fights that we'll see in One Piece, which is Luffy versus Blackbeard. But yeah, I could continue talking about this and go into other specific examples that I find interesting, like Mihawk and others, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to end here. But keep in mind, a lot of this is speculative in nature. It's just my opinion, but I think it's really interesting. And I hope that you do agree with my opinion, but if you don't, that's fine as well. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you have further evidence for anything that I've said, or anything that maybe contradicts something that I said. Like the video if you like the video. And subscribe if you're new to my videos and you want to be notified for my future content. And as always, have a wonderful day.